Hey YouTube, Joyboy here. So, today I want to talk about the true history of the world of Boku no Hero and my ideas for how the story will play out from here to the future. I believe that understanding both is important to understanding my thoughts. Quirks changed this world. It is uncertain when exactly quirks first appeared, but it is stated that the first observed quirk was from a luminescent baby in China. We do not know why, but soon after this incident, people from around the world began to be born with quirks. There exists a theory about the origin of quirks, although the story itself states that there is no clear evidence that backs this theory. The theory goes that it was an unknown virus that spread throughout the world, carried by mice. If this theory holds to be true, or even partly true, I think you have to wonder, was this virus created by chance? Or was it the result of some kind of technology? Was it some kind of desire to weaponize humanity? I just think that that is an interesting question to ask. But humans possess inherent mechanisms which attempt to counter mutation. But the world of quirks seems to readily accept mutation. Between individuals and along generations, the diversity of quirks deepens. Perhaps it is similar to viruses, which themselves constantly mutate to combat our every attempts to destroy them. I really do like to think of quirks in this way. A virus which has embedded itself in Boku no Hero's very DNA, but maintains its self-identity in nature, with each passing generation growing more formidable in the world's attempt to control it. But regardless of how quirks came to be, they are here, and we are told that what followed was societal collapse. I think it's pretty easy to imagine the calamity. People born with guns in their hands and their fingers on the trigger, quick to shoot at the society which rejected and feared them. On the other hand, you have a society that could not crush its enemy without destroying itself. I imagine that this was a tumultuous time, and a time, we are told, which led to the creation of the greatest supervillain in Japan, All for One. And from here on, I'm just going to call him AFO. I think that it's likely that AFO's story began shortly after the emergence of quirks, and based on what we know, this all occurred perhaps 150 to 200 years before Deku's story. This is suggested because Deku is the 8th inheritor of the quirk One for All, and the first person to possess this quirk was AFO's brother. Now, there isn't that much that we can assume about how AFO came to be the supervillain that he is today, but I think that the circumstances which would be capable of twisting somebody to this extent obviously would not have been good. But this period of destruction and calamity offered AFO, who possesses the ability to take and use other people's quirks, the opportunity to unite the shadows of the world of Japan and seize control over the underworld. I think that it's really interesting to think about AFO. What motivates him? What is his goal? The story sort of teases its importance of these questions, but doesn't give us an answer. But for a person who had perhaps the strongest quirk in existence until All Might, and given time to completely master it and acquire all the quirks he would need to defeat any opponent, he acted very cautiously. To the people of Japan, AFO was as much of a myth as reality. He had incredible power, but little fame outside of the few who knew of him. He seemed to have influenced many things and acquired many powerful subordinates, but ruled from the shadows. In the time that he was active, it does not appear as though he destroyed Japan or the world completely. So what is it that he really wanted? Was he afraid that if he ruled openly, the masses would overpower him? Was he more afraid of the threats that perhaps existed outside of Japan? If it perhaps became AFO versus the world, did he figure he would lose? Was he biding his time so that victory was a certainty? Whatever his dreams might have been, whatever his goals might have been, ultimately, I guess they all amounted to nothing. Because as we are led to believe in the story, by the time of All Might first rounded up all of his subordinates, and then attacked AFO directly, defeating and nearly killing him, and leaving him with only one option: to groom his apprentice, Shigaraki, and to allow Shigaraki to inherit his quirk and seek his own future for the world. A future in which, if he had any choice whatsoever, would not include heroes. Because when Shigaraki was young, he was abandoned by heroes. But let's move back to the history. While AFO was controlling the underworld, the society itself began to change. When previously quirks were rare, they became common. It's stated that now 80% of the population has some type of quirk. And with the arrival of quirks, I think that we can assume that the world rejected and feared them. However, over time, the world began to accept them. I think it's kind of easy to imagine that perhaps when quirks were rare, it's easy to alienate quirk users. But when half of your family happens to have a quirk, it's a lot harder to hold a grudge. It would be a lot harder to call them freaks and view them as diseased. And I think that this perception of quirks and quirk users was aided by the emergence of a new force. Quirks were certainly the cause of much destruction, and undoubtedly resulted in the creation of many villains, but in response, vigilantes emerged to fight back at the evil, and to give quirks a good name. And over some amount of time, it is not specified, these vigilantes became known as heroes, and it became their job to protect the people and uphold the law. I believe that this is what this story refers to as the golden age of heroism, the age in which the threat of death was very real and villains were just as powerful as heroes. In this age, to be a hero required an unyielding desire to protect the innocent. There was nothing to be gained from being a hero other than an early grave and the smiles of the people you cared enough about to be willing to embrace that grave. Order began to be restored because of the actions of legendary heroes. If you have villains using quirks, perhaps the best way to fight them is to train heroes also using quirks. And this leads us to what is now called Hero Society, the time after which the heroes essentially defeated the villains and society as a whole was once again peaceful. And the greatest period of peace was created by All Might, who became known as the symbol of peace, the most unstoppable hero. But Hero Society is not perfect. With the rise of heroes and the people's admiration for them, it has also brought about a period I would call lost heroism. When before being a hero may have meant certain inevitable death, today being a hero means attention, fame, and fortune. When before heroes may have been motivated solely by the defeat of evil and the protection of the people, today's heroes are often not the same. I think that it's really interesting to just look at Class 1A for confirmation of this. And if you really sit down and think about it, I think that it offers up a whole lot of opportunity for growth. Ochako wants to become a hero for the wealth. Bakugo wants to become the strongest hero for the sake of being the best. Until Bakugo grows, as of right now, he is just the same as Endeavor. Ida seems to have become a hero because he looks up to his brother, and it is his duty and expected of him. Mineta just wants a harem. Todoroki just really wanted to defy his father. We can speculate that Aoyama and Toru Hagakure want to become a hero for the attention that it would bring. I think we could also speculate Froppy and Koda seem to want to use it as a platform to make friends, etc, etc. But what is lost in all of this is the kind of mentality that Deku often displays, the mentality of a truly selfless hero. And obviously we can look at many pro heroes for examples of this as well, but this is the lost heroism, and the beginning of this story and a new chapter of history. One thing that has been continuously emphasized through Boku no Hero is the importance of the public's perception of heroes and how this has been changing. The villains successfully attacked UA students. Aren't they supposed to better protect them? The student who won the sports festival is clearly deranged. They'll let anybody be a hero today. The villains attacked the students at UA again. This time they captured one of them. How did his teachers allow this? So it turns out that the student was rescued by his fellow classmates. Where are the heroes? What happened to heroes today? The declining trust in heroes' aptitude and the lost heroism is important. Stain's words ring true to many people, even if they aren't willing to go as far as he did. The defeat of the symbol of peace, All Might, leaves Hero Society with no room for error. Hero Society sits at the precipice of destruction, and the peace and stability long fought for is eroding. We've seen it time and time again in the recent story. One more false step, and Deku may not even be able to finish his schooling at all. UA could be shut down. And if you ask me, I believe a false step is inevitable. The traitor of UA still exists. Himiko Toga has the ability to transform into several students. These students of UA are not safe. Sure, Gentle failed. I know that I talked about it a lot in this past arc, that this could be the result of Gentle attacking UA, but Gentle is a very small fish. The Villain Alliance is still active. Villainy is growing stronger, and if they are listening to the whispers, they should know that it would not be that difficult to strike the final blow and throw everything back into chaos once more. If heroes are the enemy Shigaraki wants to crush, it is well within his capabilities. Everything that AFO and Shigaraki have been doing will come to some kind of conclusion, and without the ability to mend their perception, I do not see how heroes can win. Perhaps the world of Boku no Hero needs a reset, and the heroes themselves need to remember what they stand for, and the people need reminding of why heroes existed to begin with. And so guys, this leads us back to quirks. Quirks are unfair and dangerous. Twice is a villain because his quirk drives him to insanity and has made him a killer. Aries' quirk has her believing that she should never have been born. If you follow theories, then maybe Dabi's quirk was just not good enough. Many people's quirks make them feel like an outcast based on their appearance alone. Koda lost his parents because of quirks. Deku's dreams were crushed because he was never born with one. Villains are so dangerous because of quirks, and the world would not need heroes if quirks never existed. I think that it is entirely possible that the world rejoices at the prospect of never having to deal with quirks again, or as Overhaul would describe them, a disease needing a cure, which is currently in the possession of the Villain Alliance. The fact that Shigaraki controls the quirk erasing bullets is important. So where do we go from here? And guys, this is going to be completely speculation, and this is what I have been working towards. In my opinion, I think that the world needs to be destroyed before it can be rebuilt. I think in order for society to restore the lost trust in heroes will require true fear and danger once more. I think that the quirk erasing bullets will first be aimed at villains, then they will be fired at heroes. I call them heroes, but I think that maybe at this point in the story, vigilantes would be a more correct term because heroism will be outlawed. I believe that the narrative will become quirks need to go, and the government's weapon of choice in order to fight villains will be the quirk erasing bullets. Heroes and quirks are no longer needed. But the great irony is that the group controlling the cure, providing the salvation from the shadows, will themselves be quirk users. If it becomes law to have your quirk erased, then the only people immune from this law are those who don't abide by it, villains. Shigaraki will take his place as the kingpin of the underworld, as AFO has wanted. With the society and the underworld united against heroes and quirks, it will be as though time has reversed back to when quirks first emerged. Shigaraki, controlling the strings, will lead society into its deepest darkness. The people will regret abandoning their heroes, and the only way that the heroes can protect the people is by not abiding by the law, as they once did many centuries ago. This will be a time in which to be a hero does not mean fame, and does not mean fortune. Those who choose to be these kinds of heroes will only be doing it for one reason: for the safety and the smiles of everybody that they care about. And from this darkness, the greatest hero of all of history will emerge. The brightest light yet to beat back at the shadows, carrying with him a vision that will forever protect the peace. A lot of people speculate that in Boku no Hero we will have some kind of time skip, and I agree. I think that somewhere between year 2 and year 3, All Might will be killed, UA will be shut down, and Hero Society will be destroyed. And this will lead into the time skip, and lead into the conclusion of Boku no Hero, when Deku finally is able to defeat Shigaraki, and bring about his change. But maybe I am overly pessimistic and it will be far easier than that. As always, I'm curious as to what you guys have to say about this, whether you agree or disagree, and why. Just share your thoughts. Like the video if you liked the video, dislike the video if you disliked the video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content, and as always guys, have a wonderful day.